Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing lesson 2, N8.2, and we're learning about calculating percents. We're also learning about representing percents. So that's where we're going to start. Right here I'm just going to show you a pie graph that shows percentage. And let me just pick one here of 78%. Let's do that. Okay, so they've split this whole circle into 100% evenly. And to show 78%, they've taken it all the way over to 78 here, and if we were coloring this in, we would color in this whole big part here. Okay, I just wanted you to have a look at it that way. We're also going to look at it from a graph perspective. That should be the next slide here. Okay, this is a 100 graph, and this is a little bit smaller. So what we're talking today is about percentages less than and greater than 1%. So this now would be considered 1 whole 1, which would be 1, and this would be anything that would be a decimal. So what I'm trying to say is, if you were to color in this whole thing, that'd be 1, and let's say you're going to color in 60 of these. Your amount would be 1.60. Okay, and I will give you a little bit more here as we go. Okay, so what I'm saying is fractional percents exist. I'm just going to real quickly change to my pen here. Sorry. Okay, so what this means is sometimes we have percents that are between 0 and 1%. So now we're going smaller. These are fractions of a percent. So in other words, they're a fraction of 1% or 1 over 100. Remember, percent is always over 100 when we write it as a fraction. And we can represent fractions of percents the same way that we've already learned. We can do it in a percentage. We can do it in a decimal, and we can do it in a fraction. And on the hundreds chart, like I just had, broken up into thousands now. So here's an example. So how do you use the thousandths grid? And I'll show you a picture of that in a second here. To show a fractional percent. Bear with me here. I know this is all sounding a little scary when we're talking fractions and percents together, but it'll come together. All right, so here we have 1%. We know 1% is 1 over 100, or 100th. So let's go with 0.1%, which is 1 over 10, because this is the 10th spot, right, of 100th, because it's a percent, all right? So we're going 1/10 of 100%. So what this means is it turns it into a thousandth grid, right, because 10 times 100 is 1,000. Now, you don't have to really worry about all this stuff. I just want you to understand where it's coming from. So we're talking about 0.1% because the original box that was 100th is now broken into 10 more little boxes. So let me show you this. This is what I mean. So this grid shows 0.6% or 6 over 1,000. So this is our hundredths chart, right? And now we've broken each square into 10 little spots. I'm not going to make you draw these, don't worry. I just need you to have that visual of what this means and what it would look like in your head. Okay, so they have colored in 6 of these 10 little spots, and this shows on this grid that this is 0.6. Now, if it was 6%, we would be coloring in 1, 2, I'm going to just make little dots here, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and all those would be colored in if we were talking about 6%, like the full boxes. Okay, but we are now going down to a decimal of a percent. Okay, so let's keep going here. All right, so let's do this. We can find how many squares it would take up by also turning the percent into a fraction first. So given 0.9%, turn it into a fraction. Hopefully we can just sort of jump to this step eventually. All right, but we know this is the 10th spot, as I said earlier, so 0.9 over 100th, because we're talking about percent again, right? And now you multiply both the denominator by and numerator by 10, and we make it out of 1,000, because now we get a whole number here, and this is our thousandths grid, so we would color in 9 of these. Forgive my coloring. Okay, so 0.9 of this 1,000. All these little tiny squares add up to 1,000. Okay, so I'm just going to do a few here. We've seen the little ones on the last page, so I'll skip those. Let's do 24.9. So I would color in 20, that's 10, 20. I'd do a better job of this if I was actually using pencil crayons, and 0.9. So then we would color in 9 of these, all right? And that would show us 20.9%. Or, sorry, oh, I want 24, pardon me. Let's add 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 24.9%. Okay, and 49.6% would be 30, 40, 9.6. We would do 6 of these. All right, so that's what it looks like on the thousandths grid. Okay, now we want to find a fractional percent of a number. So sometimes we're given a percentage of a number and we need to figure out how much that really means. So here's an example. I want to find 0.6% of 250. So the first thing we're going to do is turn the percent into a fraction out of 100. Now, I'm going to show you these steps, but we're not necessarily going to do it this way, okay? So I just need that visual in your head of how we came to this. So 0.6%, we're going to put 0.6 over 100. Remember, percent's over 100. We're going to multiply the numerator and denominator by 10 to get a fraction out of 1,000 because we want this to be a whole number. And then we're going to divide to get a decimal number for the fraction out of 1,000. Okay, so 6 over 1,000 is 0.006. Okay, onward. We're going to multiply the original number by the decimal for 0.6%. So what I want you to really key on, just remember that of means multiply. So this is the same as saying 0.6% times 250. But we need to get that percent out of there and into a decimal, which is what we've done here. We times it by 250 now, and the answer is 1.5. So 0.6% of 250 is 1.5. So that's the whole number that we were looking for. All right, and there it's shown right there. So let's do a few of our own. So here we've got to calculate 0.8% of, again, multiplying, right, 745. So now I want you to skip putting it over fractions and all that stuff, and I just want you to change the percent to a decimal. And I know it's a decimal number already in there, but it's actually a decimal percent. We want the whole number, or part of the number. Okay, so what we're going to do is divide by 100. We did this in the last lesson. Okay, so we're moving the decimal over 2 spots, so we're going to get 0.008, and we're going to multiply of, means multiply, by 745. Okay, punch that into your calculator, and you're going to get 5.96. So 0.8% of 745 is 5.96. That's the answer we're looking for. Next up, same thing. Divide by 100. Which means move the decimal place 2 spots to the left. So we're going to get 0.004, and we're going to times that by 1053, and our answer is 4.212. So we weren't told to just round to 2 decimal places, so I'm going to leave it like that. And then the last one is higher than 100%, still a decimal, going to continue to do exactly the same thing. Right. All right, so now we're going to move this over 2 spots, and we're going to get 0.016, and we're going to times that by 400, and that gives you 6.4. All right, so 1.6% of 400 is 6.4. Now let's get into some real questions here, real world questions, so this makes some sense. So here we are. The cost for the factory to make my shirt was only 15.4% of the $55 I paid in the store. So I want to know, how much did it cost the factory to make the shirt? So what I'm going to do is the same thing. I'm going to change this into a decimal, not a decimal percent. So I'm going to divide by 100. All right, move the decimal place over 2 spots, so I get 0.154. I'm going to multiply, because of, by that original amount, which was $55. And my answer is going to be $8.47. So what they're saying is it costs the factory $8.47 to make the shirt. So I'm going to take this further and think, man, that's not very much. So how much profit did they make? So if I took $55, which is what I paid for this shirt, and I subtracted $8.47, I would know that they made a $46.53 profit, which is pretty good, which you would be surprised how often that actually happens. Okay, let's look at a house sale problem. So a house sold for $380,000. People lived in it, and 5 years later, they sold it for 180% of the original purchase price. Okay, so now we're taking 180%, so we're going to switch that into a decimal, right? So divide by 100 will give us 1.8. We're going to take that 380,000 and we're going to multiply it by 1.8, and that will give us 684,000. And now you're going, whoa, that's like way higher, so how can that be? But remember, we're doing 1, so a whole 1 here, plus 8% of this number. So it's going to be higher. It's almost double. Okay, so that was the selling price of the house the second time.